Thank you, everybody. So we're going to kick this off pretty quickly here. We do have Planning Commission. We do have Planning Commission later tonight, so we will have a pretty quick wrap up at 6:30. So that is a pretty hard stop for us. So we're going to get out of here and make way for the Planning Commission. So we'll get into this really quickly. So we will go through a sort of a recap of last meeting and get into a few activities that we have for you tonight. And so if we want to do, can we just do a quick roll call, just once we go through, maybe go through the entire list quickly, and if you're here, just maybe just pass around the mic and say here. Or just say my name. State your name.
Here, Nicole Hunt.
Tyler Dreisbach.
Press White.
Larry Gable.
Joe Pepper.
Jim Marshall.
Ken Madsen.
Shelley Manning.
Steve Belserovich.
Thank you.
Janine Foster.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. And then we do have one person online. Would you mind stating your name? Oh, he's not on. Okay. All right. Looks like no one is online. Okay, and we can go on to the next slide. So the agenda for today's meeting is we're going to have two activities. We're going to have the community a community engagement update, and then two activities. We'll have the vision and core principles activity. This is where we're going to nail down sort of a final vision and goals statement as we go forward, and then a land use activities to start to identify some land uses that we can plug into some categories. And then we'll go through our next steps. So a quick update on the community engagement. So the survey results, we did surpass 900, which is huge. I think this breaks the record both for my team and for sort of a region-wide community engagement effort. So thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Jennifer and team. Great turnout there. We did attend Simla Days, and we got some great feedback at Simla Days. Thank you, Janine, for showing up to that. And we got a lot of different feedback at Simla Days. So we'll be unpacking that during the first open house. And also, just a reminder, we were at the Elbert County Fair, and then the upcoming engagement schedule will have the open house. It says tentative on the slide, but I think that is more of a confirmed date. So the first open house will be held on October 16th. We are going to hold a steering committee meeting right before that open house. And so it'll be a long day, so feel free to stick by and hang out for the open house and see what folks have to say there. And then the open house number 2 is still tentative for November and December. Let me go on to the next slide. Yes, so I believe the open house, so the steering committee meeting will be from 3 to 4:30, and then the open house, I believe it's going to be 6 to 8. So it'll be, we'll send out updates after this meeting to confirm exactly when those are, but the steering committee meeting will happen roughly an hour before the open house. And then we are going to jump right into the core principles and vision statement activities. So we have 2 boards up here on the tables. We're going to ask everyone to get up out of their chairs, move around. So feel free to visit each of these stations. We have the core principles on this table right here, and then the vision statement on that table over there. And I'll start with the vision statement. So the vision statement altogether, sort of as a whole, is provided on the top of this board. So we'll ask everyone to go through, read the vision statement as a whole, and then we have each sentence broken out. And so we're going to kind of take this one bite at a time. And if you want to provide any feedback, then we'll ask you to write your feedback on a Post-it note and stick it within the box in the corresponding sentence. And we're going to try to get this ironed out tonight because we do need to prep for the open house, and that's where we're going to be rolling out the vision statement and the core principles for that as well. If you like the vision statement or a sentence as is, you can take a dot and place a dot in the dotted box next to that sentence. Colors do not mean anything, just a dot would be nice. And then as we go over to the core principles, sort of same idea here. Read the core principles. If you would like to provide any feedback, please write that on a Post-it note, stick that there, and then once everyone is finished, we'll kind of go through and see what we have. Does anybody have any questions before we get started? Yeah, that works. And then if you would like to just put in your written comments right here, and then we'll go through that way. That'll make it easy. Thank you. So the question was where this vision statement came from and how it originated. So we took feedback from, I believe it was 2 to 3 meetings, the first 2 to 3 meetings, and went through more of an iterative process and used the feedback that we got from the Elbert County Fair, the Simla Days Fair, and what we wanted to do is make sure that the vision statement in particular covered the entire county as a whole. So we're not just talking about Elizabeth, we're not just talking about Simla, and so using some feedback, some direct feedback, mostly from last meeting on how we sort of ironed this out. And I feel like we are in a good spot. We were able to pull some nuggets from each person's feedback into this. So the goal is tonight that this vision statement hits 65 to 75% of what you're looking for. And if what we're really asking is if folks see something that is sort of a non-starter for them and is really just a deal breaker for them, that's what we want to focus on. And then also with the core principles, same thing. We had a list of, I believe it was 6 or 7 variations of core principles, and that one was a little bit easier from last meeting. We went through those pretty quickly, and so just want to get confirmation from you all before we move forward, because after this meeting, we will be releasing this out to the public during the open house, and then that will start to get additional feedback, and then we'll come back to the group, huddle up, and then that's sort of the final process before we move forward. Sure. All right. And as we do so, would you mind getting us started? Don't be shy. And we wanted to kind of remind everybody on why we're doing it in this sort of format as well. We've been talking about this vision statement and the core principles for about a month now, a month and a half, and it has been a lot of verbal back and forth, and we wanted to get some written comments, some physical comments down, so then we can sort of scan and have documentation of those comments, and then that can provide very direct feedback. The whole purpose of this exercise is to provide some very, very clear and direct feedback for us, because if something is sort of not hitting the mark, then we want to hear about it. Yeah. I'd say they're just comments. Yeah.
Am I allowed to dot this?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I was.
Yeah.
Just kind of. I think it's the same principle.
Yeah. Balance
Editing
areas. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I agreed with it, but I like just the with that.
A little. Yeah. A little extra. Awesome.
All of this stuff. I know Joseph. I just didn't remember seeing all of this one.
Yeah. It was on Thursday, I believe.
Thursday?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thursday of last week. Let me know if you didn't get it.
Yeah, I've gotten all the other ones.
Okay.
And I was like double checking, so I'll check to see if I got it.
Okay.
I'll let you know.
Yeah. Thank you.
So mine is really more grammatical and just like making it flow better.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, also, can you take pictures once we start doing like the land use activity? Yeah.
For what?
For- You know, we could. Yeah. Oh, yeah, and that's, when we talk about, we could incorporate maybe language of like people of all ages or to include, youth. It's, but I think,
I mean, this is how we're going to preserve this,
yeah,
and our, farming and ranching culture. It's going to come from where it's
yeah,
I would, to me, it falls under agricultural heritage. Yeah. Family heritage. I don't think it was this.
Yeah,
yeah,
okay. That is addressed somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Maybe if you want to add that on the post-it notes, and I can just hold on to here just so it's
say what?
I don't think I got the last one.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Last one was on the 27th.
Okay. Because it was only these two boards, and so the next, I'll make sure
all
our
the
list-
other ones.
Okay.
But will you always send an email,
Yeah.
kind of reminder with this
Yeah.
a couple of days before?
Yeah, it'll typily be the week before.
The week before.
Okay.
If I don't see one, I'll just then reach out to you.
Okay, I'll double check our Excel. I think your name may have just been.
I mean, I've gotten all the other ones.
Okay.
I just didn't. I don't think I did. Yeah, I've looked for it.
Okay.
I'll have a look.
And as a reminder for everybody, if so, we typically send out emails a week in advance. If you don't see something a week in advance of this meeting, let me know. Shoot me a quick email or a text message or call me. I think we may have dropped one person off the email listserv. So just, we didn't do that on purpose. I'm sorry, Tyler. But if that does happen to anybody else, just let us know and we'll fix it. Awesome. Well, I think we can go ahead and dive into this. It looks like we do have a lot of dots, which is a good thing. Oh, and can I get those comments, the comment sheets? And so we'll start with the first sentence. We'll start with the first sentence that says, Elbert County is a place where the values of stewardship, faith, and hard work shape its rural character. We have one comment that says predominantly rural character, and another comment that says Elbert County is defined by the values of stewardship, faith, and hard work that shaped its rural character. So, how do we feel about this first statement? Does anybody want to go first? If you left a comment, I will assume. Okay.
So mine was the last one that he read, and was really, I just changed it from is a place where, but is defined by. And so mine was just a tweaking of the words to, in my opinion, be more impactful.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, so Nicole had this for sentence 1, Elbert County is dedicated to the careful stewardship of its resources to ensure the county's rural character endures for future generations. Yeah.
I love the values of faith and hard work. That's how I'm raising my kids. However, I'm not exactly sure how faith and hard work translate to the core principles we're talking about, or even the zoning regulations that the county would produce based on this vision statement. So in my mind, the most important thing we're talking about in this first sentence is stewardship, because stewardship is what is going to preserve this county's rural character for future generations. So I personally would like to see more of an emphasis on stewardship as we move into the planned growth.
Would it? Yeah. Hold on.
Even though I have personal faith is not really a part of the county. I mean, it's part of the county, but I like Nicole's language. I think it hits the spot right on.
How does I see some head nodding? How does that feel with everybody? Yeah, a lot of head nodding, a lot of thumbs up. Okay. And then we will move on to the second statement. So, guided by these values, we commit to preserving our natural resources, agricultural heritage, and family-oriented communities. We have one comment that says, rooted in these traditions, we are committed to protecting our natural resources, honoring our agricultural heritage, and nurturing family-oriented communities. And then our second comment is, guided by this value, we commit to preserving our natural resources, agricultural heritage, and family-centered way of life. So it feels like we're about 90% there. Would anybody like to dive in a little bit deeper between traditions and value?
Well, one of the key things I feel like is, when you talk to people that have been here a long time, or even people that have moved here in the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years, there's a lot of tradition in Elbert County, and I think it's important that that remain part of our vision and keeping that at the forefront. And I really like saying rooted in that tradition because, again, there's a lot of history that goes along with Elbert County, and I don't want that to just be forgotten.
Since mine was read, I actually really liked that the vision statement was titled Rooted in Tradition, Growing with Intention. And I think that, I don't know if that's possible to, integrate that into our vision statement or just, have it there as, a statement of what defines us. With this sentence in particular, I do think that guided by this value is important because we just talked about stewardship. So for this, and I didn't have many changes. My one change was really the last part, and where in the one proposed said family-oriented communities, and my suggestion was family-centered way of life. And I did that because sometimes in a rural community, you do have families that are more sparsely spread out. But it doesn't mean that that family-centered way of life is lost. When you say family-centered communities, it kind of makes it sound like, you have to live in a development in order to, be around other families and have a family-centered community. And I just think that it's reflective of all of us who live on 50 acres and those of us who live on a quarter of an acre, that when we say that family-centered way of life, we're getting everybody included.
I also see some head nodding. How does everyone feel with that change? So family-centered way of life instead of family-oriented communities? Head nods. Any objections? All right. Then we will move on to the last one. So as we look to the future, intentional and responsible growth management will be essential in strengthening our local economy, small town character, and infrastructure, ensuring Elbert County remains a safe and resilient home for future generations. We have a few comments with this one. The first one is when referencing a safe and resilient home for future generations, it's strengthening and preserving our home for future generations. There is also a note that says with a balance of economic growth. And then another comment that says, looking ahead, thoughtful and responsible growth management will be essential to strengthen our economy, preserve our small town character, and invest in infrastructure. Thank you, Kim. And then our last comment is, as we look to the future, intentional and responsible planned growth will be essential to protect our small town character while we strengthen our local economy and improve infrastructure. Would anyone like to comment on these? Oh. Okay. I will need to repeat that, sorry. And ensuring Elbert County remains safe, resilient, and vibrant for generations to come. All right. Would anyone like to jump in? Jim?
I didn't have much on this one, but that one you read talked about expanding on economic development. That's a very broad term. It means a lot, and it means building infrastructure. It means it means growth of some residential and commercial. Elbert, and I've said it 100 times, Elbert County is really unique. And, one of the things that occurred to me over the last couple of weeks, it's one of 7 counties in the metro area. It's the only county, if you exclude Lyman and I-70 interchange. It's the only county of the 7 in the metro area that doesn't have an interchange on I-25, I-70, or the E-470 Beltway. And that's a really huge thing, because the type of development that you see in Castle Rock and Parker and Aurora just can't, it's not going to come out here. It's not going to want to come out here because we don't have the road infrastructure to support it. So anyway, I didn't have a big problem with it. The one you read where they expanded on the economic development part, I think, and I don't know that we really need to get into that. The vision statement is generally general, and it's somewhat vague, but the body of the comp plan is going to get into the details and spell all this stuff out.
Thank you.
In the version that I put together, it was very similar, but I just moved it around a little bit. One word that I changed was, instead of intentional and responsible growth management, I really like the phrasing intentional and responsible planned growth, because I think that's probably the one thing that's missing the most, is that it's just not a plan. And I'm really glad we're going to do this map where we're going to talk about the plan for the uses of the county. So I like the idea of not calling it managed growth, but planned growth, because that seems a lot more intentional to me. And then I just put the dichotomy between the way that it was phrased. We're strengthening all three things, which I do like, but there's also this little bit of an ebb and a flow, a balance between protecting the small town character while we're strengthening our local economy and we're improving infrastructure. So I think it's a little bit different. It reads differently because we're putting the emphasis on wanting to make sure we keep that small town feel, while also making sure that we're continuing to grow and be sustainable, which is one of our core principles. So I like that type of approach, so that we can protect and also grow at the same time.
I don't disagree on the word planning. I think that's a good word. I'm the one that added the word preserving. It's one thing to strengthen, but I think we want to preserve it too for the long term.
I'm okay with planned growth management. I had a little heartburn over intentional. We don't know what the economy's going to bring. If we have a collapse of the economy like we did in 2008, we may not want, I understand planned growth, and I think that's good, but to say it's intentional, I think it means the same without the word intentional. If you say responsible planned growth management, just the word intentional, I think it's biased.
And
So I was just going to say, that's why I changed intentional to thoughtful, just because there are going to be things that happen that change it and everything. So we're putting our best effort in thoughts, but it's still up for, intentional, I think, is a little too restrictive.
then we do have someone on the phone. Chris, would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, I'm having a hard time following the discussion. Are we talking about the stickers?
Yes, so we're talking about the vision statement, and we are on the third sentence.
Yeah. So on the vision statement, I was favorable for the second one. That's good. On the third one, the only thing I added was growth management will be, rather than saying essential, will be required to underpin the local economy, retain our small town character, and strengthen infrastructure to ensure Elbert County remains safe and resilient. You should have the markups there of what I've got. Obviously hard to say it over the phone, but I sent them to you, so you've got them physically there.
Okay, and we can actually go through that. Do you have that up, Inez?
Jennifer and Innes, your teammate there.
Yeah, I think we will just read them out loud. Give us 1 second to pull those up, Chris. And so it seems like as we're waiting to get that pulled up, the planned growth versus intentional growth, how does everyone feel about making the change to planned growth? Okay. Thoughtful too, okay. All right. All right, and I will read Chris's edits. So Elbert County is a place where values of stewardship of the land, faith, and hard work shape its rural character. That was for the first one. And then the second one, it looks like we are good. And then the third one is, as we look to the future, intentional growth. As we look to the future, intentional and responsible growth management will be required to underpin our local economy, retain our small town character, and strengthen infrastructure to ensure Elbert County remains a safe and resilient home for future generations. Are you there, Chris?
Yes, yeah, no, you nailed it.
Awesome. Well, I think we have some clear direction on making these revisions. We will, oh yeah, Ken.
I agree. I like where we're going with it. The one thing in addition that I changed was where we talk about desirable home. I put in desirable home instead of resilient. To me, it's something desirable that people want to come to versus.
Awesome. Thank you.
My only concern with this is of the land. I think we also want to have good stewardship of our water, our air. So I think of the land sort of narrows it, and I would like it a little broader than that.
Awesome. Yep, and then we do have natural resources up there on the second one to preserve our natural resources, agricultural heritage, and family-oriented communities.
Comma, faith.
Stewardship of the natural.
Okay, so stewardship of the natural resources.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Water. Yep.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Chris. Yep. Any last comments?
And I would just add, with regard to the stewardship, that, we're referring to it in the second line because it's not only about the natural resources, it's about the family, way of life here, the agricultural heritage. So just make sure we keep it broad enough so it applies to all of those.
Thank you. All right, so it sounds like we got some pretty good direction. How does everyone feel about moving on to the core principles? Everyone good? Okay. All right, so moving over to the core principles. So we have 4 core principles that will that will be accompanied throughout the comprehensive plan. These core principles will be identified throughout in each chapter and will be essentially accompanied by an icon that identifies where each core principle is coming forward in the chapters themselves. So we'll introduce those in the beginning of the comp plan, and then as we get through each chapter, you'll see these icons pop up, and that sort of keeps us reminded of these core principles, and then the core principles also just reinforce the vision statement as well. And so the first core principle is Elbert County will protect its natural resources. Our first comment is add all before its. So Elbert County will protect all of its natural resources. And then we have an additional comment that says, water being of the most importance, make sure all future development includes water storage for use and protection. And then another comment that says, low-density residential development and service-oriented commercial development will ensure limited pressure and the protection of the county's natural resources. And then the last comment we have, protect water, comma, open space. Any additional comments? Kim? Oh, and yes, Chris said at the end of this, at all costs.
So, not that I disagree with some of that, but these are core principles. So I think it's supposed to be a broad umbrella that other things fall under. So I think, just identifying it as all natural resources is the broadest way to encapsulate everything.
Seeing a lot of head nodding, agreeing.
I actually thought the 4 core principles were pretty good. I didn't really see a lot of reason to change them. Again, the body of the document's going to get into the detail, but I approached it a little differently. I just made comments on why I think that we will achieve those 4 things.
I added comments, and I'd love for you guys to keep them too, because I added things that I think are relevant, right? For example, Elbert County preserving its rural character, like that, agricultural heritage. To me, that's where this fits in. So there's certain things, because we don't actually have anything on here about our agricultural heritage. So making sure that like the key things that are important to us, especially in the vision statement, find a spot in here. So I hope you'll hold on to those as we flesh that out.
And those comments, so just referencing waters, scenic vistas, and trees. All right. So how does everyone feel about the first one? It seems like we got some head nodding with changing it to Elbert County will protect all of its natural resources. Yep. Okay. So moving on to the second one, Elbert County will preserve its rural character. Our first comment with an additional sticky dot is with smart managed growth. And then another comment that says a balance of economic growth or growth in parentheses. And then our third comment is protect and promote the rural economy. An additional comment referencing agricultural heritage, larger land parcels, no high-density multifamily development, rodeos, livestock, no massive roads, and no excessive strip malls. And then also a comment, have a parks and recreation plan, put the brakes on large developments. I think a lot of these comments are getting into like what these core principles will actually result into, which I'm really happy to see. We're getting into sort of that next layer after these core principles. And Jim, would you like me to read all of these? Read them. Okay, I'll read them. So. So he had mentioned that these are reasons that why we want to achieve these goals. So Elbert County is located outside the primary growth corridor for the Metro Denver area. The expansive 1,800 acres plus, or 1,800 square miles plus geographically footprints, combined with the fact that it is the only county of the Metroplex that does not have immediate access to I-25 in the I-70 corridor or the 470 Beltway, and ensures the preservation of its rural character. So I think we're getting back to, no, this is great. So how does everyone feel about this? Any additional comments?
So I personally don't think we need to add discussion here about economic development because it's number 4, right? So I think the point is that we do want to keep our rural character. That's why it's in the first sentence of the vision statement. I think we can talk about the economic development as its own principle.
So how does everyone feel about that? The economic piece being a strong core principle that is sort of a standalone core principle. I'm seeing some head nods. Okay. So head nodding on this one. It seems like we're all good with this. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So moving on to the third one, Elbert County will foster a safe and high quality of life. Okay. Our first comment is a preference to not use the word foster twice, which I think is a good comment. So we start to run out of adjectives.
My preference would probably be to leave foster the safe and high quality of life and change foster in the fourth one to, something like develop a sustainable economy because we don't have a sustainable economy, or, something along the lines of encourage a sustainable economy, something that is, I guess, more proactive. Promote, yep.
No, I love it. This is exactly why we do this. Any additional comments? So changing this to Elbert County will promote a safe and high quality of life. And then the fourth one would be Elbert County will foster a sustainable, reverse. Okay.
Blake, we also had a comment from Chris. His was Elbert County, I don't know, this is it green? Okay. Elbert County will maintain a safe and high quality of life. So add maintain.
Actually, it's on the next. Well, we're just talking since we were talking about the word foster. I like the change that Kim suggested, and I think also the word cultivate might be a little bit more intentional. But just to throw that out there.
Thank you. And Shelley, did you have anything? Okay. Sustainable. Yeah, so the question was, what is sustainable? And what does that mean in terms of the core principles or anything, right? Is that the question? Yeah, so it's just, I would say sustainable. Sustainable could mean shifting with current and future market conditions. So think of more resiliency when we're using that word sustainable in this context. And so when we're talking about resiliency, it's preparing for future changes that we may not see in the future and putting ourselves in the best possible place to react to those challenges in the future. So,
if I could.
Sorry, Chris,
I put in there,
can you start over? Chris,
I put in there,
can you start over?
Elbert County will select and pursue businesses that can establish sustainable economy while meeting our core principles. 2 sustainable companies that are Colorado Lining, who's been there a very long time. They don't tax the natural resources, and they provide international or national resources, and have been hiring local people and work across the country, and they've been very sustainable over the last 20 plus years. The other one would be Hayward Baker, again, a manufacturing facility that doesn't use ungodly amounts of water, manufactures, installs does construction, and it's very sustainable business. So those would be two that would fit the demands on natural resources and the character and that sort of thing.
So maybe shifting this, maybe another word for sustainable, maybe a resilience or a future focused or any.
I mean, when you're, okay. I like sustainable because when you're talking about the sustainability, I mean, right now we are a bedroom community that serves every other community around us. We do not have a balanced workforce. We don't have enough businesses to support our residents. And creating a sustainable economy means, you know, creating the things that help keep our residents here without having to drive to Denver for jobs.
So I think we do need to move on, so I will ask you all to be quick.
I'll be very quick. I think I like sustainable too because it implies that it's going to be there indefinitely, and it's, yeah.
I'm fine with sustainable. What I added to the end of the sentence, though, was for the benefit of its residents, because that's what the motivation should be for.
Okay. All right, I think we got some good direction on these. We will take another round to revise and then send these out back over to the steering committee to get final approval as we go into the open house. Any last final comments? All right. We will move into our second activity, which is the land use activity. So give us 1 second as we start to move the boards around. All right, so we're going to be passing out a deck of cards. So these will be a deck of land uses, and these are just example land uses that will find their way maybe in the plan or maybe not find their way in the plan. And what we will be asking you all is to place these deck of cards or the land uses within the category that you would like to see those land uses. And so just as a reminder, what are future land uses? We're not talking about zoning. We are talking about some guidance for zoning. And the future land use plan is a guiding plan, a guiding document, and a map that visually shows how the county will like to grow in the future. So this means everything from whether it's agricultural land or residential land, how those categories are sort of identified. That's what we're starting to get into tonight. And this is going to be a tool for the decision makers, so the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners, as future development comes, they will use this as a guiding tool to help make decisions on where future development can and cannot go. And as we get into this exercise, next slide. Next slide. So we provided a quick example of a future land use map from another Colorado county. So this is Morgan County. And as you can see, it's very similar to the landscape of Elbert County. A lot of agricultural land and very focused development and land uses near the municipal boundaries. And they have 5 designated land use categories. So agriculture, clustered residential, rural residential, commercial, industrial, and then they also have a mixed use overlay, and this is sort of a very fluid sort of overlay to provide some development towards the corridors. And so using this as sort of a guide, we will ask all of you to visit each of these stations and, like I said, place the land use cards in whether it's a primary or secondary land use within rural. And we want to challenge everybody that if you see a land use card and you agree with it, then try to find an additional place for that land use. So for example, the residential, if we have rural and we have residential in the primary land use, we can also have that in the secondary land use. So we don't want to preclude one particular land use in a primary section. We're just trying to gauge the appetite and where these land uses can fall. And then also, these category names are very generic. They're very high level, so we will ask you all to take a Post-it note and write your preferred land use category name in that Post-it note in this general rural category. Does that make sense? No? But it's clear as mud. So can you provide a definition in which you think we would have some disparity?
What's the difference between the rural and the public? I don't understand.
So the public is starting to get into like public facilities, whether it's institutional, whether it's Parks and Rec, or whether it's any sort of public utility use, like that would fall under public. And then can we go back to the Fort Morgan? So right here, with this example, they do not have a public use or a land use category. And so if you would not like to see public, then we would like to have that comment on a Post-it note. And if it's, this doesn't belong, then we would like to get that feedback. And what we're trying to do, the goal of this exercise is to nail down some categories, and then what those categories look like in terms of land uses. So public would be a category, so a land use designation, and under public, they would have a variety of land uses that would fall under that category. So you do have, and you do have 2 wild cards. If there is a land use that you would like to see, please write that into the wild card land use, and then place that into the land use category that you would like to see that in.
Corps decides they need to build another substation. They kind of figure out where it needs to go based on where the services are currently. I mean, are we trying to figure out where we want to see that kind of public improvement or not?
So an alternative way to handle it would be public uses could be secondary in every category. That may be a more appropriate here, to be honest.
I mean, we don't know. We don't know how things are
Right.
going to develop. And
That's what I would suggest personally, but I do think that this is a good opportunity to make this portion of the plan really specific and really Elbert County centric. So, other counties, they may use, what did they use? They may use agricultural and they used, I can't see that far, clustered residential. I doubt this group really wants to use that type of language, but you all might want to use rural residential, or maybe you want to call it farm and ranch land, right? So you all can sort of determine those category names, but the categories, right, are the big picture. That's what the colored is going to be on the map. And then this exercise helps show the types of land uses that would be allowed in those different categories, whether it's a primary use or a secondary use. There can be as many or as few as we feel are appropriate.
Yes, so the categories that we have, and we are not married to these categories. So if we would like to have an additional category, this is what this exercise is for. So we have rural, public, commercial, industrial, and residential.
Probably needs to go in the agricultural category or whatever that's called, agricultural, ranch land, something like that. Right. And so again, this is not regulatory, and so this is not going to change anybody's zoning, right? It helps provide guidance. Sure, sure. For example, one of the things that we have already heard, speaking to, right, you all and the public is, in some places they have commercial and industrial grouped together. We heard very clearly that concerned people, right, that they wouldn't necessarily want those in the same areas, right? There may be areas that are more appropriate for commercial, retail type development, but not for industrial or manufacturing. So those at this moment are separated out, right? We're certainly looking for the feedback to see if you all liked those separated out or if you want them together, right? And so that's the type of feedback that we're looking for. Does that make sense? But again, we don't have to call it industrial. It could be called manufacturing. It could be called employment. It could be called whatever the group feels is most appropriate in our setting. Of course, and this is not getting to that level of specificity. And so this is very general in nature, but you could certainly have some primary uses that are maybe warehousing or transportation or something like that, and then maybe something as secondary that's more intense. But again, we can adjust the regulations to reflect this, but this is a starting point. And so all of this is designed to be conversation starters, not to limit it in any way.
And this is meant for, like Jennifer said, a conversation. Mm-hmm. And so I'll ask everyone to stand up, and we can chat through each one. And for example, like residential, we have a restaurant land use, or you have a restaurant land use card. That restaurant land use card could go in the secondary use of residential. Even though it's not residential, it's still, if it's a neighborhood serving local restaurant, that's a corner store, that's what we're trying to get at. It's we want to challenge you all to not view these as black and white, and physically see how multiple land uses fit in multiple land use categories. And so we're going to go from 30,000 feet, and we're going to try to get us down to 20,000 feet before we really take a stab at providing a first look at the land use categories.
And I would just challenge everyone to not be afraid of categories, right? It doesn't mean it's necessarily going to come next door to you, but we're looking at the entire county, right? The county is huge, and so we just need to be sure that we're thinking in the future about if this type of land use were to come, where would it be most appropriate? And before we can get there, we have to sort of group things together. And the map exercise will be mind-blowing.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think that is also part of the conversation. Like, hey, we actually don't want this land use, and that is something that is extremely valuable information for us to sort of identify those land uses, like penitentiary. It's, you know, that is probably not the most attractive land use for Elbert County. And also, when we get into this, I want to also continue to remind everyone that this is a county-wide land use plan. This is not a municipal land use plan or a jurisdictional land use plan that's going to get into every single parcel. We've seen county-wide future land use plans that are bubbles. And so the bubbles are like, for example, employment center or activity center or residential center or mixed use center. So those are very, very vague land use categories, for example.
I've got another question. What's good for western Elbert County may not be good for eastern Elbert County. So I'm having a problem, like, I might dispute the prison thing, because out by Matheson, that might be okay. I'm not saying it is, but it would never be okay on Sinking Hills Road. So I'm a little confused, like, if we're putting these into classifications, but our county differs. So we're not like Morgan County, that's pretty much all the same, but we're totally different. Western Elbert County is totally different then.
So maybe we need more categories. But we're not mapping them yet.
Yeah, and I was just going to mention, I mean, I get that you're saying think outside the box on this, but you know, I've lived in Highlands Ranch where there's, you know, the fast food place and the grocery store that's like right around the corner from all of the houses, or the urgent care that's right behind the neighborhood. But the question is whether or not we want that land use, not, would this be a good secondary use? And to your point, it might be a good secondary use in one part of the county, but maybe not in another part of the county. So as we're doing this, are we doing this for all the county, for parts of the county? What is our metric here?
Yeah, and I guess the answer would be the entire county. And so when we start to get into maybe having more land use categories, I will also challenge, maybe it's beneficial to have less and each category be broader. And so when we get into the goals and strategies of the land use piece itself, then we can start to get into, well, what's best for Simla may not be best for Elizabeth, and walk through sort of that piece. And so this exercise tonight is we're not mapping. What we want to really get into are the land use categories that we're going to use to map in the future. Is that clear?
We're going to create these categories. We're going to add stuff to them. But again, like they said, Eastern is totally different than Western. And so how do we make this county-wide?
So
Yeah.
I agree. We start somewhere.
Yeah, and so I listen to a lot of financial podcasts, and there's a saying, the only way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. And so this future land use plan is quite literally an elephant, and we need to start somewhere, and I think these land use categories, or at least this conversation, gets us started. and then we can start to get into sort of the details at a later portion once we start, once we start.
Blake, is there a way, I mean, Kai was sort of the dividing point. Everything west is sort of a different mode, and everything east is a different mode. I mean, I'd almost, if you could divide the, and that's very simplistic. Yeah. But.
So we're coming from a very high level right now, and it's like a funnel. So we're starting very broad, which is where we started with the vision statement, and then the core. We're coming down bit by bit. And so we just put these out here into these categories, but then as we start to go down another level, then you can determine, well, this is what it means for northern or western Elbert County, and this is what it means for eastern Elbert County. We're not getting into those details right now. We're still just kind of coming down from our core values and just kind of going, okay, overall, this is where I think this land use category could be or possibly be. That's all that we need to do right now, as I'm getting it.
That's correct. I would also add that, at the end of the day, I would expect that your future land use map is going to be somewhat similar to this one in the sense that most of it is probably still our agricultural, right? Or whatever you all decide to call that. So please don't think that this is trying to, change the entire county to whether it's commercial or industrial or something like that. That's not the intent at all. So I would follow Blake's lead and just challenge you all to try it. It's step one of a pretty long multi-step process, and I do think that we can gather some valuable information from the information that you all provide, but this is not a one and done, so please don't think, well, I put that down and now I've determined that my neighborhood is gonna have a grocery store. Not at all, not at all. So this is very much step one. There will be opportunities to get to the mapping. We completely agree that different areas of the county need to be addressed differently. We've spoken about that. There's a plan for that as well. This is just literally step A or one of, many to come.
If I could just spin off what you said a minute ago. So I have a little sifting. I took the ones out I don't want, put them aside. So what's left is going to be primary, secondary, and third? Primary and secondary of the ones that are left for the entire county. Okay.
And Blake, let's make an area for ones that are not placed somewhere else, so that we can evaluate those and come back with questions and further discussion about those as well.
Yeah, and what we'll do at the very end is take pictures of each, and then whatever is not there, then we know that it's not wanted.
This will not apply within their boundaries.
No.
Correct.
Yep, and just like this, Morgan County's future land use, so the municipal boundaries will just be blank. So those will be identified by a boundary, and so when folks go to look at their future land use, they just go to their future land use plan, and it gets a little bit more detailed.
Should we say that land uses that folks don't want, they come bring to me, and I can hold on?
Yeah, any land uses that you do not want, just bring to Inez. And we'll be at each station, so if you have questions, we can chat through them, and let's get started. So the categories that we have are rural, public, commercial, industrial, and residential. So we will do a quick recap, but we do only have a few more minutes left. So we were not able to get to the category names, and so for the next meeting, what I want you all to start thinking about are these 5 categories and how you would like to rename these categories to fit these boards. So we will take pictures of these boards. We will send out these pictures to the group, and between now and our next meeting, start to think about what land use categories the name itself fits within the character of Elbert County and also the character of these land uses that are provided on the board. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yeah, so for example, like residential could be more rural residential. And public could just be, hey, let's not use public because all of those land uses go in every single land use category because they're public. Or for example, industrial could just be employment or employment center. And so those are some ideas from other counties that we've seen in their land use categories, but just something to think about between now and then. Yeah. Yeah, so the statement was the options that we have, and I will challenge everyone to start to look at example counties and future land use plans that they have, and start to take notes of what you like, what you don't like, maybe what seems a little bit too prescriptive or maybe too general. Yeah.
But I hear you saying we should do the research, but you're the ones who regularly help counties like ours that are rural counties. So in rural counties, what would be some common types is what I'm asking rather than putting the onus back on us to go do the research.
Yeah.
Like what do you see in your experience as things that you see in other counties do that can
Yeah.
inform us?
Yeah, and I think what we can do is when we follow up with you all is we can provide some examples. We can provide some example language of categories, and then yeah, yeah,
Is that he wants us, as the residents of Elbert County, to define what that means to us. Not what it means to every other county, but what does it mean to us as the citizens to be these different categories? And so, but what he's asking is to just create some and come forth with them next time.
A good starting point is we have a comp plan now. It's not totally broken. I mean, it's not complete in certain ways, but it does have a lot of categories. So you might want to take a look at current plan. I looked at Arapahoe County, I looked at Adams, I looked at Douglas. Because guess what? Even though they've got this,
So before the current comprehensive plan, we had a master plan in the county. It's still on the county website, and there are lots of land use designations in there, and that, since that was what we had before, that also might be something that would be a good resource.
And I also, back to Kim's point, I want to be careful personally as consultants to be too leading and make sure that we are empowering this group to lead as a partner. And I guess that's where I was coming from. I want to make sure that I balance our leadership as consultants and not press too hard. And so if we need to lead a little bit stronger, then we're more than happy to do so. But I would like that to come from you, saying, "Hey, we need a little bit more guidance." Then we're we're happy to provide that. Awesome. Well, thank you all again for your time, and we will see you here in about a month.